So, good morning to all of you. So, this morning we're going to proceed to a new topic, and we'll be using this caricature or picture. Okay. So, as you can see, we have here a globe, and there are people walking around. Okay, and this is somewhat showing us movements of people. Okay, all throughout the world. So, this is in connection actually to our new topic, global migration. So, for this session, of course, we have the following desired learning outcomes. So, as students, you should be able to understand the factors underlying global migration. Second, you have to comprehend the rationale of why people migrate and should be able to equip yourselves with the necessary knowledge to see the holistic impact of migration and, of course, realize the importance of migration together its impact to globalization and also to communities and families. So for today's discussion, okay, let's proceed to the migration issues. So we have actually a lot of issues when it regards to migration. So we'll have those later on. So under these issues, so we have actually major forms of migration. We have also selective migration and of course brain drain. Okay. So when I say migration, it refers actually to the crossing or to crossing the boundary of a political or administrative unit for a certain minimum period. So you are going to transfer from one location to another location. Okay, so that's it. So there are actually categories of international migrants. Okay, so we have here first, of course, temporary labor. Okay, migrants. So when we say temporary labor migrants, these are also known as guest workers or overseas contract workers. So these are men and women who migrate for limited period in order to take up employment and send money home. So examples natin dito ay yung mga OFW po natin. Okay? Na nagsisig po na tinatawag po nating greener pasture in other countries just to provide their families out of the salary that they are receiving from the employment that they have outside. Okay. And the second one, we have highly skilled and business migrants. So these are people with qualifications as managers, executives, professionals, technicians, or similar who move. Okay. They move within the internal labor markets or of transnational corporation and international organizations, or these are people who seek employment through international labor markets for scarce skills. So maraming bansa ang nagwe-welcome po sa tinatawag nating mga migrants na ito kung saan sila po ay may specialized uh, talent or skill, especially in the so-called business migration, sorry. Okay? So, pangatlo, yung tinatawag nating irregular migrants. So, sila naman yung mga undocumented. Okay, nabubulol na naman ako. Okay, undocumented or illegal migrants. Okay, so sila po yung TNT natin. Okay, mga illegal workers. So these are people who enter a country usually in search for employment. However, they don't have the pertinent document or legal documents or permits. So many laborers, okay, or workers outside are undocumented. So these are workers that are facing a lot of troubles when they are being caught by the authorities. Okay, some of them are being maltreated, of course, okay, and threatened. So very risky, okay, sa lahat ng mga TNT. So, sila po ay napabilang dito sa irregular migrants. And we have also number four, refugees. Okay, so according to 1951 United Nations Convention, okay, relating to the status of refugee. So, pag sinasabi natin refugee is a person residing outside his or her country of nationality who is unable to or unwilling to return because of well-founded fear of persecution on account of race, dahil sa kanyang race, religion, nationality, membership sa isang tinatawag natin particular na social group or political opinion. Okay? So ito yung mga examples natin dito, yung Rohingyas. Okay? And then some people who suffered from persecution. Okay? Say for example, yung nangyari sa Syria because of the war also. Okay? So sila po ay uh, lumipat ng ibang bansa. Okay? Para po ma-secure yung buhay nila. Okay? Then number five, asylum seekers. So these are people who move across border, okay, or borders in search of protection. Okay. So aside from that, they are not also obliged to fulfill the strict criteria, okay, laid down by the 1951 Constitution or Convention, I mean. Okay, so example natin dyan ay yung mga tao sa the Netherlands, okay, na kung saan sila ay target po ng kanilang mga governments. And then yung last resort nila ay pumunta po doon kasi that country is actually protecting those people, okay, from, of course, persecution. Okay, so sila ay humingi ng tinatawag nating asylum, especially sa Netherlands po ito. Okay, so andun si Joma, di ba? Isa sa mga good examples natin. Joma season. Okay. And then forced migration is the next. Okay, so dito na po tayo. It's number six. Forced migration. So ito naman yung aside from refugees, of course, uh, aside from asylum seekers, uh, those people also that are forced to move by environmental or catastrophe or development projects such as new factories, roads, or dams. Okay. So, sila ay napipilitan lamang. Okay. At wala silang magawa kasi nga tatamaan yung area nila ng mga proyekto. Okay. O kaya natural calamities, ika nga. Okay. So, wala kang magawa dyan kundi kailangan mong lumikas. Kasi pag hindi, pwede kang mamatay. Okay. So, ayan. So, we have also number seven, family members. Okay, so ano bang meron tayo dito? So also known as family reunion or family reunification migrants. So pag nagkaroon ka ng petition from your son or daughters na nagtatrabaho po doon sa labas naman sa, okay, so pwede po yan. Okay. So usually kapag ka nasa US ka, pag nagkaroon ka na ng green card, and then later on you wanted also your parents to go there, it would take 2 to 3 years. Okay. Ganun yung haba ng tinatawag nating petition, okay, process. And then sa siblings hindi ganoon ka ano, hindi ganoon kabilis kasi it would take siguro mga 10 years for your siblings na makapunta doon. Unless may makakilala ka talaga na uh, Americans na very influential. Okay? And of course, the last one here is return migrants. So, sino naman sila? So, these are people who return to their countries of origin after a period in another country. So, return migrants are often looked on favorably as they may bring with them capital or skills and experience useful for the economic development of the country. So marami po tayo niyan. Okay? Dito sa Pilipinas na of course nagtrabaho sa labas ng bansa and then nagkaroon ng puhunan o nagkaroon ng capital and then dito na sila nagstay for the better. Kaya nagpo-put up sila ng mga tinatawag nating negosyo. And then of course, pag nag-put up sila ng negosyo dito, of course may trabaho para sa mga Pilipino. Yun yung kagandahan ng return migrants, guys. Okay, so natutulungan nun yung governments na magkaroon ng tinatawag po nating opportunity again, kaya makatulong sa government na, na bigyan ng opportunity yung mga kababayan natin. Okay? So according sa book natin dito, there are actually causes also of migration. Okay? So, sorry, hindi ko na nalagay dito. Pero una-una dito, so, individuals' effort to maximize their income. Okay? So, greener pasture. Okay, ika nga, isa yan. Pangalawa, sabi dito, chances of secure employment. Yan. Kasi kokonti lang yung opportunities natin dito at hindi sapat para sa lahat. Okay? And of course, availability for entrepreneurial activity, isa din yan. Okay, lalo na sa mga business tycoons natin. Okay, lalo na sa mga may capital. Okay, and of course, number 4, family strategy for survival chances. Of course, sa labas ng mga bansa natin, iba kasi yung setup. So in terms of benefits, okay, if you're going to compare it, mas mataas talaga ang benefits na na-receive nila o malaki. Then of course, families believe that the best strategy for them to survive is to migrate. Kasi nga, of course, sa Philippine setup, since kulang yung opportunities natin dito and the salary that we are receiving here is not really big, okay, and could not provide all things na gusto natin for the families or for the members of the family. So what we have in mind most of the time is to migrate. Okay. And number 5, educational opportunities. This is also one of the reasons why we migrate. And number 6, recruitment for military service. Okay. So ayan. So those are the reasons or causes of migration. But I have to add something in here. Okay, pagdating po sa tinatawag na po nating types of migration. So una-una, sa types ng migration, meron tayong tinatawag na gross migration. Okay? So yung gross migration, ito po yung kabuuan na bilang ng tao na pumapasok at lumalabas ng isang area. Okay? So somewhat it also saying in here that it is referring to the level of population turnover. Okay? So ilan yung lumalabas, ilan yung pumapasok. Okay? So ayan, gross migration. And of course, yung net migration, so ito yung difference between immigration, okay, and immigration. Okay? Pag sinasabi nating immigration, yung pumapasok, okay, sa loob ng bansa. Pag sinasabi naman nating immigration, okay, letter E, okay, ito naman yung mga lumalabas. So, yan po yung difference ng immigration at saka emigration. Okay. So may positive value? Yes, meron. Okay? So more people coming in. Okay? Meaning to say, pwede ito makapagdulot ng tinatawag nating opportunities for other people. Okay, kasi may pumapasok na investors or ilan sa kanila ay mga elite in the society. Pero meron din siyang negative value. Okay? Bakit? So more people are coming out. And of course, population decline could also takes place. So, ayan. So, sa types ng migration, mayroon din tayo tinatawag na international migration. Okay. So, dito na, pumapasok yung emigration. Okay? So, it's an indicator of economic or social failures of a society. Kaya nga lumalabas tayo. Okay? Kasi kulang talaga dito yung opportunities. Okay, kahit sa ibang bansa, guys. So, they prefer to look for jobs in other countries because they know that there are a lot of opportunities in there than what they have in their host country. Okay, so in this type of migration, so there is what you call crossing of a national boundary. Kailangan mong lumabas ng bansa. Then, of course, easier to control and monitor because you have to have documents, proper documents or legal documents. And there are laws also that controls or inhibit these movements. Because if you don't have the legal documents, so you cannot go outside. Okay? Unless you will be illegal migrants or irregular migrants. You wanted to become irregular migrants. Okay? Or TNT sa term natin. So, around the globe, okay, 3% po ang lumalabas talaga. Okay? So between 2 million and 3 million people immigrate each year, and between 1965 and 2000, so 175 million people have migrated. So ganun kadami. Just to look for greener pasture, of course. Okay? And additional types is the so-called internal migration. Okay? So you're just moving within a country. Okay? So all you need to do is you have to cross domestic jurisdiction boundaries or jurisdictional boundaries. And maybe the movement is only between states or provinces. In the case of United States of America, of course, pag interstate lang, yan. Within US ka pa rin. Pero sa atin dito, of course, we're using provinces. So if I'm from the province of Sultan Kudarat, I will going to migrate to South Cotabato. So that's it. Local or internal migration lang yan siya. Okay? So there is little control on the side of the government kasi wala naman kailangan ipakita ang dokumento. Okay? So kapag nakabili ka ng lupa doon sa South Cotabato, pwede na. Okay? And then gusto mong manirahan doon, of course. Okay, pwede. So there are some factors why we transfer. Okay? Or migrate from one province going to another province. So maybe this is due to our employment, of course, sometimes retirement, okay, or education, or sometimes civil conflicts. Okay, na kung saan nagkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag dito na mga displaced people. Okay, say for example, may giyera, yan. So, lilipat yan sila. Okay, so ayan. Then we have also another one, yung tinatawag nating local migration. Somewhat synonymous with internal migration. Okay. So in here, in the local migration, no state boundaries are crossed. Buying a new house in the same town or city. So dito, okay, parang synonymous talaga siya. Kung ito yung central city, guys, so lumipat ka lang sa suburban. Okay? O kaya naman sa suburban ka, lumipat ka ng city proper. Okay? Or within suburban ka, lumipat ka ng location mo, part pa rin siya ng suburban. Okay? So ayan. So yan po yung ibig sabihin ng presentation na ito. So we have difficulties in researching the actual data of this movement. It's mainly because wala po tayo talagang datos para matansya. Kahit yung approximation lang kung iilan. Okay, so based on change of income or lifestyle na rin ang isa sa mga cost nito. Okay? And often, very high levels of local migration ang nangyayari po. Even in some other places, not only here in the Philippines. Kasi minsan, of course, may nakikita sila mga opportunities doon. Kahit na, say for example, you're living in a barangay and then you see an opportunity in other barangay. Yeah, pagpalagay na lang natin yung Isabela, okay? And then mas prefer mo na mas malapit doon sa, city proper. Eh, so hanap ka ngayon ng ano, nakabili ka, so medyo mahal 'yan. Pero of course, kung kaya naman ng budget mo, why not, 'di ba? And if you're wanting to come up with a business, so better na bumili ka ng lupa na medyo malapit-lapit doon. Okay? Para of course, kumita ka rin kahit papaano. So in the case of Americans, okay, most of the time, they change residence every 5 to 7 years. So ganun sila ka ah, adventurous. Okay? Yung iba, of course, because of opportunities na rin. Okay? So, ayan. So, in other types of migration, meron tayong tinatawag na voluntary migration and involuntary. Okay, so pag sinasabi natin voluntary migration, so this is because you decide to move. Wala pong pumilit sa'yo. And most migration is actually voluntary because of opportunities, because of education, because of, uh, there are a lot of reasons. Okay? Pero pag sinasabi nating involuntary, okay, dito nagkakaroon na tayo ng forced migration. Napipilitan ka. Okay? So, sabi dito, forced migration in which the movers has no role in the decision-making process. Kasi, say for example, nagkagera. Okay? So, wala akong magawa. So, aside from that, we have also slavery. Okay? So, about 11 million African slaves were brought to the Americas between 1519 and 1867. Okay? So, yun yung sa data ng US. So, in 1860, there were close to 4 million slaves in the United States. So, bumaba siya from 11 million hanggang sa nagkaroon na lang ng 4 million slaves. Kasi of course, dumating na yan si Abraham Lincoln. Okay? So, hanggang sa nagkaroon sila ng tinatawag nating freedom talaga, total freedom or uh, independence. Okay? Because they were already given rights, okay, in the US. And of course, it could be in the form also of what refugees. So, napag-usapan na natin last time o a while ago. Okay, itong mga refugees. Kaya involuntary pa rin. So, because of war, because of calamities or persecution. And then, of course, we have military conscription. So, nangyari na yan sa mga tao sa Marawi. And of course, yung iba, yung recent lang dito sa pag-abuluan. Okay? So, lumikas din sila. Okay, dahil sa labanan. And of course, children of migrants. Okay? So, say for example, yung nanay-tatay mo doon na nagtatrabaho sa ibang bansa and then may green card na sila. And then, ipipetition kayo ng mga anak. So, ayan. So, dilipat ka talaga. So, situations of divorce or separation is also one of the causes of involuntary migration. Okay. So, ayan. So, to sum it up, ito po yun. Okay. So, pag sinabi natin international migration, you have to cross, okay, your boundary. Okay. To regulated po yan, okay, dahil you have to have pertinent documents or valid documents. And we have also national. So it's only between states or province with, of course, little control on the part of the government. And this is due to employment opportunities, education, or even retirement. And we have also local migration. So this is only within a city or region. So maybe it's because of the change of income or lifestyle. And voluntary, okay, this is because of the outcome of a choice or it's based on decision, okay. And involuntary, this is also the outcome of what constraint because there are problems being encountered by those people living in a locality wherein they are already affected and they have to move. It's mainly because if not, they will be killed or their lives will be at risk. Okay, so ganun lang po yung types of migrants or migrations po natin. Okay? So, ayan. So, meron tayo ditong selective migration. So, according dito sa author natin, many migrations are selective. Okay? So, do not represent a cross-selection of the source population. Maybe, of course, when it comes to the differences. So, mayroon mga bata. Okay? Uh, both sexes, of course, lumilipat din yan. And of course, yung level of education na rin. Okay? So, sa age-specific migration, okay, tatlo yun na. Tatlong klase ng selective migration. Okay, una-una, yung age-specific migration. So, according here, one age group is dominant in a particular migration. Okay. So, international migration tends to involve younger people kasi nga adventurous yung mga kabataan. So, the dominant group is between 25 and 45 years old. Yung pinaka-peak dito is 26. Okay. Kasi may mga discernment na rin yan. And then, of course, naghahanap talaga yun ng greener pasture sa edad na yan. Okay. And then, studies and retirement are also age-specific migration. So, emergence of international retirement migration is also there. Okay. So, ayan. So, ito matanda na ito. Ito, of course, bata sa studies. O pwede naman na mayroon kang scholarship from the government or sa CHED. Then, doon ka nag-aral for 2 years, 5 years. Yan. So, sa US na data guys, in 2000, okay, yung mga foreign born, okay, ito yung ano natin, percentage, both male and female. Okay, yan. So, mas marami sa kanila around yung edad is 35 to 39. Yung peak, pinakamataas. Okay, so yan. Pag native naman, okay, so ang pinakamataas dito, of course, we have 5 to 9. Okay, yung mga natives talaga. Okay, and then 40 to 44. Ayan. Sa female yan Sa mga kalalakihan, of course, andyan na. In terms naman sa sex, okay, specific migration. So, sa mga lalaki, often dominant international migration ang mga lalaki. Okay, bakit? Mas ano kasi sila, tawag natin dyan, hindi sila vulnerable doon sa mga threat. Kasi pwede nilang i-defend yung kanilang mga sarili anytime. Okay? So, once established in the state wherein they are working, so later on, they're trying to bring in yung mga tinatawag nilang asawa nila. Okay? So, sa mga kababaihan naman, so they are often dominating the rural to urban migrations. So, sila ay nanggaling sa mga rural areas hanggang sa lilipat sila ngayon sa urban. Okay, so ano dito? To find job. Okay. Either sa factory or sa mga bahay-bahay. Okay. And of course, marami yan sa atin dito. Okay. Most likely sa mga kababaihan natin, okay, pumapasok sila sa lumalabas sila naman sa okay, as domestic helper o kaya sa factory, mga factory workers yung kinahahantungan nila sa labas. Okay? And then of course, dahil dito, karamihan sa kanila of course ay mapalad, yung iba naman hindi mapalad. Okay? So, out of the work that they are having, so they are actually, or they were sending remittances, okay, sa host country nila or sa state na kung saan sila galing. Okay. Ayan. So, Filipino females, 17 to 30, are always wanting to what? To go to Hong Kong or Japan. Okay? So isa pang issue natin dito ay yung tinatawag nating mail order bride. Okay? Mail order bride. So around 100,000 to 150 women a year advertise themselves for marriage. So may mga online ano rin tayo niyan guys. May online website na rin tayo. So about 10,000 available on the internet at any time. So mainly from Southeast Asia and Russia. Okay? So isa na yun dyan tayo kasi pag nakabilang tayo sa Southeast Asia. And comes from places in which jobs and educational opportunities for women are scarce and wages are very low. So kaya naghahanap sila ng kanilang partner through online websites o online dating. Okay? So yan po yung issue ng mail order bride. Okay? So nangyayari din yan dito sa Pilipinas. Okay? Yung pangatlo, under selective migration ay yung tinatawag nating educational specific migrations. Okay? So this may characterize some migrations having or lack of. Kasi walang ano doon, walang paaralan. Okay? Hindi ganun ka ganda yung paaralan na andoon sa area nila. Okay? And yung parents ay gustong bigyan ng magandang tinatawag nating future. Okay? Yung anak nila, yung iba, pinapapunta ng ibang bansa para mag-aral. Okay? Doon lang naman sa mga kaya. Okay? So, in terms of differences, okay, so 21% of all illegal immigrants have at least 17 years of education. Sa Amerika, ito na sa taba. 8% for native-born Americans. 20% of all immigrants do not have 9 years of schooling. Okay? Sa setup ito ng Amerika ha. Sa foreign students naman, okay, often do not return to their home countries after their education. Bakit? Bakit ka pa babalik? Kasi doon na may ah, maraming opportunities at malaki pa yung sahod. Kaysa babalik ka dito sa Pinas. Okay? So, wala din. So, kung doon ka nag-aral, better na doon ka rin maghanap para at least yung income mo mas malaki. Okay? But of course, pag patriotic ka and nationalist ka, so babalik ka talaga. Okay? Pero kukonti na lang actually yung may ganoong mindset, guys. Okay, kukonti. Most of them would want to have jobs outside the country. Okay? Even today. And here's the data in 1978. So some 130 Chinese overseas students have returned while some 250 have remained abroad. Kasi ang nangyari kasi dito sa China last time, noong 1978 guys, nagpadala siya ng around mga 300 scholars sa colleges, universities ng Japan, okay, and other states like US. Kaso nga lang, out of the 300, okay, yung iba hindi na bumalik. Of course, dahil na sa hirap ng buhay na meron sila sa China, at the same time, alam na nila yung tinatawag nating galawan. Okay, so some of them retain or remain in the state where they studied. Okay, yung iba bumalik talaga kasi die hard nga. Okay, na fund ng Chinese government. Okay, so most research-oriented graduates institutions have around 40% foreign students. Actually, ginagawa na dito sa Pilipinas. Last time when I was in Marbel, so yung Holy Trinity, meron silang 300 ata na exchange scholars. So nag-meeting kami doon sa CHED office, sa regional office sa Marbel. So sila lang ata yung school na medyo marami yung nakuha na exchange scholars from Africa. Okay? So ayan. So with regards to economic sector, okay, when it comes to high level, so feeling high skill position in science, technology, education, ang kalimitan na andoon, okay, sa labas ng bansa. So not enough highly trained personnel in the US, because US based ito and result in recruiting abroad. So nagkakaroon tayo ng brain drain. Okay. So ayan. Kasi sila yung may kakayanan guys na alam niyo na superpower country sila. Okay. So kapag may nakakita sila mga tao na may potentials in the field of science and technology and even in education, so they would not hesitate to hire those people. Okay, for their own benefit of course. Okay. At ang hindi lang kagandahan dito of course doon sa mga host country na kung saan nanggaling yung mga tao na yon na mga highly trained or skilled na mga tao. Okay? So sa low level naman, of course, feeling low paid jobs, minimum wage that most people do not want. Okay? Most of the time. Under, of course, dito yung pupasok yung agriculture and the low level services. So, nangyayari pa rin yan, especially sa mga developing countries. Okay? So, ayan. So, there is a maintenance of low wages and low skill jobs, possibility of an informal economy. Okay? So, nangyayari yan sa mga tinatawag nating uh, mga bansa na developing. Okay, ito na yung brain drain. Brain drain. Okay? So, ano bang brain drain? So, it relates to educationally specific selective migration and some countries are losing the most educated segment of their population. Nawala yung pinakamagagaling. Okay, dahil pupunta yun sa ibang bansa and then maghanap ng trabaho and then sila babalik. So, kalimitan, natitira dito ay mga, hindi naman natin sinasabi na lahat. Okay, meron pa rin mga gagaling dito. Okay, pero yung karamihan na gustong magkaroon ng greener pasture, na magkaroon ng magandang pamumuhay. So, alis talaga yan. So, can be both a benefit for the receiving country and a problem to the country of origin. So, kawawa yung country na kung saan nanggaling sila. Kasi, of course, sayang. So, one reason, lack of opportunities. Okay? So, sa side ng receiving country, guys, so they're getting highly qualified labor that always contributes to the economy right away. So, ganun sila. Okay? So, ganun kaganda kapag mayaman ka na bansa. So, they also promote economic growth in strategic sector like science and technology and not having to pay education and health costs. Kasi nga, free Medicare sila. May free Medicare and of course, education sila doon. So, it costs about, sa Amerika ito, it costs about 300,000 US dollars to educate an average American and 30% of Mexican with a PhD are in the US right now. So, look at that percentage. So 30%, napakarami. Of course, some of Filipino doctors natin na mayroong degree ng philosophy doctor or doctor in philosophy. Yung iba dyan, andun din sa US. Some of them are in Thailand. Okay, and other states, of course. Okay? So, ayan. So, ito yung behavior and patterns natin. Okay? Or behavioral explanation of migration. Kasi may life cycle nga tayo, di ba? Okay, so of course, nung bago pa anak tayo, of course, nasa parents pa rin tayo. Okay? So, ayan. So, kapag 30 years old na, of course, that's the time na nagkakaroon na tayo ng career, okay, family. So, lumilipat na ng bahay. Later in life, of course, nagkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag natin paghina ng flexibility natin and of course, yung energy natin. Okay? Medyo hindi na rin ganun kaano. And then, of course, here comes retirement. Okay? Kung saan it often brings a major change. And of course, large migration of retired people have been occurring in the direction of amenities-oriented areas. So kaya yung ibang mga foreigners, mas prefer nila na pumunta dito sa Asia. Kasi nga, yung luxurious life na gusto nila, hindi niya nila ano doon sa Amerika kasi of course, yung palitan ng pera, yung value ng pera nila, pag doon nila ginastos yan, kukunti lang din. Okay? So most of them pumupunta dito sa tinatawag nating Asian countries para of course yung value ng pera nila lumaki pa at makapag-invest sila dito and then hanap sila ng mga partners nila. Kaya yung iba, dito lang talaga sila. Okay? Kasi iba yung hospitality ng mga Pinoy. Okay? So, ayan. So, yan yung refugees natin. So, nabanggit na rin natin ito kanina. Okay? So, ayan. So, ano yung mga qualifications para ikaw ay magkaroon ng refugee status? So, una-una, hmm, okay, there should be what? Demonstration of what? Political persecution. Okay? Na pwede kang mamatay anytime kahit saan ka pa magtago. So, kinakailangan lumipat ka. Okay? And an international boundary must be crossed. Okay? Yan yung isa sa mga uh, conditions. Okay? Dapat lumipat ka. So, domestically displaced person do not qualify as refugee, of course. Kasi doon ka lang naman sa ano. Okay? Sa bansa mo pa rin. Okay? Protection by one's government is not seen or alternative. Seen as an alternative. So the government may be the prosecutor or persecutor, I mean, okay, could be incapable of protecting its citizens from persecution. So ayan. So merong ganito na setup eh. Okay? Yung gobyerno mismo yung pumapatay. O kaya naman, may pumapatay at hindi siya kayang protektahan ng gobyerno niya. Okay? So yun yung tatlong conditions para ma-qualify ka for a refugee status. Okay? So, ayan. And there are also environmental and economic refugees. So, ito yun. Okay? So, there are those people who can no longer gain or a secure livelihood in their homelands because of what are primarily environmental or economic factors of unusual scope. So, maybe sa sources na rin. Okay? I don't know. When it comes to the different sources, okay, kung bakit tayo nagkakaroon ng mga refugees under this category, environmental economic refugees, dahil na rin yun sa natural disasters or calamities. And of course, human alterations to the environment, dahil na rin sa climate change, and contamination or pollution of the environment and lack of development and opportunities. Okay? So, ayan. Okay? So, here are some current issues. Okay? Of course, refugees are a controversial issue, especially po sa mga developers. Kasi minsan, of course, say for example, sa case European countries, so tumatanggap sila ng mga refugees. So ang ginagawa kasi dyan, dapat you have to have a budget, okay, for these refugees. Okay, kasi tinanggap mo sila, dapat bigyan mo sila ng pagkain, para damit. Okay? And then give them opportunity also para hindi sila magiging problem ng bansa mo. Okay? So, ayan. So, there is this 1996 amendment to the US immigration law. Okay? So, ito yung nakasa doon. Enforcing detention for all refugees entering the US. Oh, madideten ka. Ayan. Madidetain. So, tingnan nyo naman 4,000 detained on any given day. Lalo-lalo yung galing sa mga Mexico. Okay? Dahil sa hirap ng buhay. Okay? So, ito yung mapa guys na kung saan napapakita ng mga refugees. Okay? So, kung maliit lang na kulay green, 10,000. Pag medyo malaki-laki doon sa nauna, so 100. Pero pag maramihan na, more than millions na rin yan. Okay. So, yung dyan natin, pag red, yan po yung point of origin, kung saan sila nanggaling. And then, yung kulay green destination. So, ayan. So, tingnan nyo yung mga bansa. So, we have here Sri Lanka. Okay. Dito sa Southeast Asia. Okay, mayroon din tayo dito. This is Russia. Okay. India. and parts of Europe, Africa. Okay? So sa Amerika, of course, dito sila lumilipat ng iba. Okay? So yan po yung ating topic for this morning. So maraming salamat po at sana maganda yung result ng inyong quiz. Okay? So good luck sa quiz and exam po. Salamat.